Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Independence Blue Cross Foundation, I am delighted and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our panel discussion on addressing racial disparities in addiction, treatment, and recovery. I am Lorina Marshall-Blake, the president of the Independence Blue Cross Foundation and also vice president of community affairs. I can't begin to tell you how glad I am and excited I am to moderate this panel this evening. And again, thank you all for joining us for this critical discussion. You know, one of my favorite actors, Denzel Washington, said, at the end, it's not about what you have or even what you've accomplished. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. Patients of color are less likely to receive addiction treatment than white patients, mostly due to financial limitations. In communities of color, high quality, affordable treatment options remain scarce or non-existent, and fatal drug overdoses continue to worsen for people of color. But you know what? This must change, and each person on this panel are committed to collaborating for change. Tonight, we will examine the disparities African-American patients and families face when receiving treatment for substance abuse disorders, as well as the vision behind the Black Patient Scholarship Fund. Woo-woo! Yes. Before we get started, I want to ask each panelist to introduce themselves and tell us a little about your organizations. And Mel, would you mind leading us off tonight?
You got it, you got it. My name is Mel Wells, President and CEO of One Day at a Time. I don't really say my title a lot. I say servant of the community. What we do at One Day at a Time, it started by my mother and father. May they rest in peace, in heaven now. We've been open going on 40 years. We're about not only recovery for the individual, but community recovery, putting families back together, stopping the violence. Whatever level of recovery, that's what One Day at a Time is doing for the city of Philadelphia and our community.
Great, and you know, we're excited that you're here. And I like to say, I knew your dad. So you come from good stuff, good stock, good stock. Okay, okay, Doug and Dave, will one of you follow and let?
Hi, I'm Doug Tiemen. I just stepped down after 26 years as president and CEO of Caron Treatment Centers, and I'm lucky they kept me on. I am now president emeritus and senior consultant to the CEO. I've been in the addiction treatment field for almost 4 decades, which means I'm old. I've been at this a long time, seen a lot of changes. I loved hearing you talk about the mission of One Day at a Time. We had a chaplain who recently said, you hire these consultants, get really great mission statements. He said our mission statement should just be simply, we put families back together again.
Hear, hear.
That's what it is. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dave Rotenberg, who will also tell you a little bit more about Caron.
Thanks, Doug. Mel, what an honor to be here with you, Doc. Really appreciate the opportunity. Dave Rotenberg, Chief Clinical Officer of Caron.
Yes.
Grew my way through the ranks of Caron. 25 of his 26 years I've been there. The organization, Caron, again, putting families back together, loving the person when they can't love themselves, generosity of spirit. Many of our mantras are similar, parallel. Caron's been around as an organization for over 60 years. We take huge pride in obviously best in class drug and alcohol treatment. But more important for today, individualizing care, finding cultural competency within our ranks, whether it's for the people of color, LGBTQ community, the Jewish community, and any other group that perhaps doesn't get the attention that they merit and very much need, as I'm sure today will highlight.
Yeah, and again, you know, as I hear all three of you speaking, I think about, I love quotes, and so one of my favorite ones is by Dr. Maya Angelou, where she says, people won't remember what you said and they won't remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And when I look at what you're doing, Caron, and One Day at a Time, you're about making sure that people feel good and they know that they matter. So let me get started with my first question. What are the current barriers to receiving substance use disorder treatment for Black clients? You know, again, and talking about how do you feel you can overcome those barriers? And I don't know whether Mel or, okay, and Mel, and I'll just throw another one in so you can give me the, because I know you, okay? What do you think needs to change to close the gap in equitable substance use disorder treatment? What can be done?
So some of the barriers are health insurance. People are stuck in poverty,
Yeah.
money, support system. You know, you kind of judge in families now if you're the actual addict. There's a lot of barriers that will stop people from going into treatment that actually this partnership get rid of those
Yes.
barriers where we're not money driven at one day at a time. We love to send people who actually need the help up to treatment, not worrying about if they have health insurance or not, especially with y'all looking out for the African American community and Hispanic community. We actually able to make an avenue, even for our staff members. If they had an issue or a problem, we're able to take care of that through a caring partnership.
Yeah, and I think again, when you think about that, it's like when you say that, don't tell me you care, show me you care. So again, when I think of Caron and what you're doing, and also ODAC, you're showing people that you care, that they indeed matter.
Yes.
So that's another reason I'm just excited to be here. I mean, I'm just,
You're on fire.
yeah, I really
We're excited to
am.
be
No,
with you.
I'm loving you
You know?
guys for the great work that
We
you're
love,
doing.
well, we love being here. One more
Yeah,
thing, if I could
sure.
add to what Mel's
Absolutely.
talking
Just
about.
jump in. This
Yeah,
is
right. Another
this is a
barrier.
fireside chat. Go
Right.
ahead.
In addition, a barrier, thinking about early intervention and advantages that white clients and children in early adolescence get. They get more early education and intervention than their black counterparts.
Yeah.
What do we know in the clinical world? The earlier you attack and educate, whether it's smoking cessation, whether it's drug and alcohol prevention, whether it's early intervention on mental health issues. Failure to do that at an earlier age leads to greater rates of pathology later. And so our white counterparts have greater access to that kind of thing than their black counterparts, as I'm trying to highlight here. And so that's that's an obstacle that's not as easily identifiable, but it's every bit as potent.
And I think again, Dave, you're right on point. It's about access.
Right.
And so do you have access to the services?
Right.
And again, when you even look at barriers, it could be transportation. I mean, it could be just the fact I got to find somebody to take care of my kids. Again, you've got all those things that are inherent that people don't often think about that may keep you from getting that or also contribute to the stress. But let me get, I'm real excited about this. Where did the idea for the Black Patient Scholarship Fund originate?
Yeah.
Now, Doug, you got to tell the story.
I got to tell the story.
You got to tell the story.
Got to tell the story. I always say God works in mysterious ways or has an
Well,
incredible
you know
sense
he
of humor.
does. Now, don't start me to preaching now.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
ahead.
Right,
Amen.
Reverend Dr.
Go ahead.
So was the spring of 2020, and one of the funders of Caron had a summit, a CEO summit, and wanted to talk about criminal justice reform. And I was invited to this, and my first reaction is, what do I know about criminal justice reform? Not really much. And so as I was hearing people talk about it, I said, you know what, this is simple math. It's 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. And the first one is, we know that the vast majority of people in prison today are there because of alcohol and drug related issues. The second thing we know is that disproportionate people of color are in jails. In fact, at about 5 times the rate of their white counterparts. And then the third part of it is we also know that people of color get access to treatment at less than 50% the rate of their white counterpart. And 50% is bad enough by itself, but what makes it worse, as you heard Dave and Mel talk a little bit about, the access isn't to the same quality of care.
Right.
It tends to be, they don't have the same access to professionals. So when you put that together, the logical solution is we have to make the same kind of access to care for people of color that whites have.
Yeah.
And so with that, I went to our board and said, we should start a Black Scholarship Fund. And we kind of said, what do we know about that? And I said, not a whole lot. And so I said, let's try to figure this out. So I called Dr. Lorina Marshall-Blake and said, can you help us? Can you put me in touch with some people who know something about that? She said, I'll put you in touch with Mel Wells. He knows something about that.
Exactly.
Thank you for that.
And the beauty of what it did, not only was a partnership, but you said, you know what, can IBC contribute to the scholarship fund? And I said, yes.
Yes. See.
And then I said, you know, you have a lot of access to the community. We need some help with cultural competency. Can you help guide us to some consultants or expertise? So better than that, you have provided pro bono through the Independence Blue Cross University, diversity, equity, and inclusion training for our board, for our staff, which has been really helpful. So thank you to IBC, really being, we had a spark, you fanned this flame, so thank you.
But
Way to go.
I think again, it's all about positioning, okay? And I remember when Doug said it to me, I said, oh, this would be so great. And I said, I know we can do it. We'll figure it out. I didn't have it all figured out. Doug didn't have it all figured out, but we knew the people to connect in an effort to do it. And I think, again, as we look at these opportunities, I call it, wow, wonderful opportunities waiting. It was just waiting, and all the stars aligned, bam. And then, Doug said, I said, yes, I can help with the money. We can do this, we can do that. But it's a great initiative. And it goes back to, again, don't tell me you care, show me you care. Or more importantly, put your money where your mouth is. Okay, people say, walk the walk and talk the talk. So again, when I see when Doug and Mel, I said, I've got just the person. I didn't even hesitate. I said,
You did, you were quick.
I did it. I said, I know just the person. And you said something real key, cultural competency, and you even mentioned it, Dave. It's so important that people be able to see people that look like me. And I've been out to your facility. Great facility. Awesome. All right. So again, it's equal access to everybody, regardless of your race, your creed, your ethnicity, whatever, okay? So I'm glad that you were able to do that. But you want to talk a little bit more about, when we look at it, you put specific dollars aside, we put specific dollars aside. And again, where do we go from here, as a matter of fact?
From the beginning, we thought we would start with $500,000.
Yeah.
We said, let's try a couple of patients a month to see how it goes.
Sure.
We also said that we probably won't get it perfect to start with, but let's don't let the perfection be the enemy of just making progress and getting started. We'll learn from our mistakes. Sure. And the beauty of this is we kind of all started with that from the beginning. And the nice thing that we've seen happen is you got excited, and IBC also now has contributed to the fund, and we have other funders now that have added to it as well. And we had some early great success with this. I mean, I remember your visit.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Is that when you came up, totally unscripted, and we're just doing a tour, and you bumped into several of your guys that were up there.
I call them family members. I always call them.
And why don't you tell about the response?
I was going to say, why
we
don't
had
you
no
talk
idea what
about
they were going to say.
Yeah,
no
so
idea.
I'm just walking through the facility, and then here comes two of my guys. Mel, thank you so much. I can't believe you made my dream come true. And I say thank you, man. Because honestly, a lot of my guys come from a poverty background. Some of my guys come from North Philly, never been in Center City. And by you taking them to that environment, now these guys are back working full-time, cleaning off drugs, and back with their family because of this scholarship. I didn't have to worry about the referral process, the health insurance, how much money I need to make it happen. You made the dream happen. And I just want to thank you, not only for them, but for their kids that's smiling on as well.
Very
Sweet.
good.
And you did two important things at the beginning, because we, again, we talk about cultural competency. We should mention that Caron is located in Wernersville, Pennsylvania, about 75 miles away from Center City. And so one of it was somebody who would have to be comfortable in that kind of environment. I mean, it's rural. It's rural. Most of our staff are white.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And so someone would have to be comfortable with that. And we said, we also want participation from the family.
Right.
And again,
Great.
putting families back together is really key. And you made both of those happen. You get them out there, you get the family out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I just dropped the person off yesterday. So thank you.
You want to say something, Dave?
Yeah, just the synergy with Mel and Caron and IBC Foundation, undeniable. And how charismatic is this guy? But I think the other factors, we're mostly white staff. Our patient capacity with African Americans has doubled since we started this endeavor.
I was about to ask you, what have you learned?
It has doubled, and I really wanted to say that too. What have we learned? Cultural competency for that staff makes them better overall clinicians. So they're not only more effective with African American patients that come to the sticks of Wernersville, they're better overall.
Right.
And cultural competency elevates their clinical game and sophistication. And so there's a lot of wins that come from that. And I will tell you that our hiring practices of Black and Hispanic staff have also gone up since we've begun this endeavor. So there's a lot of beautiful synergy
Sure.
Maybe not out of the gate like a rocket,
But that's
but
okay.
steady still, and that's very
Again,
important.
I think, again, it's what, like TMs, I call them, teachable moments, okay? And we all stand to learn from one another, okay? So, and again, when you look at cultural competency, that includes all of them. Mel, you said something that I thought was key. It's a family affair.
Yeah,
And Caron has always been at the heart of that. It's not just the person who's affected, the whole family is affected.
family.
So as they get well, the whole family gets well. The whole family gets well. So, so again, as you go forward, the expected outcomes, you mentioned, Doug, that, I thought when you said that, so we're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for progress, and then we can build on that.
Yep.
And we can build on that.
Progress, not perfection.
And I hear that now that, your population has doubled, your staff is now more informed.
That's
So I
right.
think great things are coming out of this. Now, the theme of this year's BPHL event is rising through collaboration.
Yeah.
And that's a favorite word of mine, collaboration. Could you share more about the importance of this collaboration? And again, you've talked about it and how to reach Black families, but even when we think about collaboration and coming together, when I say that to you, what comes to your mind looking at this initiative?
Yeah, collaboration, I believe, is partnerships.
Yep.
We are a family trying to help others, trying to help other families become more united. Collaboration, we're looking at more of the services I may not have, they have. One thing we're able to put on the side is all competitiveness. We're not being
It's
in
okay.
competition.
Don't worry about it.
We're not being in competition with one another.
Yeah.
The reward is when we get to sit back and see, see that family, they back together. And by planting this seed of hope in them, you actually help prevent the kids from taking the same generational curse as their parents or loved ones. So it's much bigger than everybody. We're not only fighting, drugs and alcohol, we're fighting poverty too, and a poverty mindset that leads to addiction as well.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you, Dave, or even you,
I
Doug,
wanted
want to
just say,
comment on that.
there's a couple of important themes I think that we have from the beginning about
Sure.
collaboration. One is self-awareness. As Mel said, we know what we do well,
Yes.
but it's also important to know what we don't do so well.
Exactly.
And I think the other important part is mutual respect and respecting others with what they do. And the beauty of the nonprofit world, as you said, there is no competition. Our competition is substance use disorder. That's who we're competing against. And we collectively win when we help somebody, whether it's our two organizations or 6 or 7 others out there that join us to be able to help somebody get sober.
Right.
That's what collaboration is about.
Yeah.
Yes, and the money part, if I may say,
Yeah.
the
Right.
funding part is so a blessing to us, a scholarship.
Sure.
We don't have to track it down. We don't have to try to do the health insurance piece and all that stuff. We could take a person as they are, send them to y'all. You send them back to us. We get an individual job, get them housing, and next thing you know, they had the whole family back together. I mean, I'm seeing guys now that's on my full-time staff that graduated from Caron. And also now alumni are one day at a time. That's God working. It's not just us, but it's much a blessing that we're working together, especially because of IBC. Seeing this vision, making it happen, this collaboration and partnership.
Yeah, and again, when you look at, and you just said it, you took what I was thinking, partnerships.
Yeah.
They're partnerships with purpose, on purpose. So, and I think again, as there are others, you're the role model. Okay, so then others can scale up and do exactly what you're doing. And the hope would be that others would get on board. Okay, I think what this has also done is that it has also helps to change the narrative. Again, addiction, it's a disease. It has been positioned often to be so negative. I always remember a guy that said, we're not bad people trying to be good. We're just sick people just trying to get well.
That's right.
Amen.
And that's it. And Caron's doing it, and ODAP is doing it, and not just in a little way, but in a big way. It's almost if we had a rock and we threw it out into a pond and it went ripple. You're touching lives and you're making ripples throughout the land and throughout the programs that you're doing. But let me ask you another question. What are other strategies to address gaps in equity for substance use disorder treatment? Again, I know what you're doing, and even all the great work that Caron is doing. Again, Mel, I'm thinking of Malik.
Yeah.
He's a photographer. Is he still doing this with us?
Yeah,
Okay.
Malik is still in his role, process of recovery, doing what he has to do as well.
Exactly.
And, you're talking about strategies. I'll let you go first, Doug, the strategies part of it.
Well, one of the things first with just some of the populations, Dave's really been the champion.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Dave has one of the great lines
Dave, you're
about substance use disorder. For those of us personally in recovery, we look out for each other and we kind of say we're the champion of the underdog.
That's right.
And anybody who has this illness, it doesn't matter rich or poor, whatever, you're an underdog if you suffer from this illness. And Dave coined that phrase. Why don't you just tell them some of the underdogs that we have really been working?
I mean, for me, first of all, like so many who work in this industry, I'm a person in recovery.
Right.
I come from a father who's a Holocaust survivor. By definition, I'm going to look out for the underdog, whether it's the adolescent, whether it's the young adult, whether it's the heroin addict, whether it's the young black kid from Philly. That's where my heart and my talent combined. We've talked about synergy in relation to collaboration and what it means. What it also should mean is expansion, more fundraising, more organizations need to duplicate our efforts, right? I think that's the thing. There's so much heart and experience up on this stage, but really collaboration is fluid and ongoing. And the synergy that we've found in less than a year, Mel, needs to be duplicated and expanded and outsourced. So when we talk about the Caron mission, even though Doug talks about, hey, it's in the sticks and it's largely white, it is our mission. And it is our internal goal, and mine and his, and obviously yours too, to reach out to the underdog, the people that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise, and make them feel heard and understood.
That's right.
And treated correctly.
Yeah.
That's who we want to be. That's who we are, and that's who we want to expand into. But we need other people to follow us.
That's right.
Yes.
And one of the advantages that Caron has is we're not just a local spot in PA. We are a nationally recognized treatment center, in large part to Doug Tiemen. Credit to Doug.
26
But again, what we need to do with that mantle of success is expansion and growth and getting the word out. And so you have to have fearless leadership, like Mel Wells, standing in front, not being afraid at the tender age of 41, but with the wisdom of a 65-year-old, being ready to bring it, being ready to say to people, let's be honest, if we Googled, which I did before this, black role models in recovery, you got a list, but it needs to be expanded.
I got you.
It needs to be expanded.
And so,
Do we agree?
No, definitely. And what I would say even more is that, you're not in sticks anymore. You're in North Philadelphia.
That's right.
You're in Center City. You with IBC, you with One Day at a Time. You're with us. So I want to say to the city of Philadelphia, help us here. This is a change. This is a transition now. This is not just a money-making business. People driving and trying to see how many people you can get to make money off of them relapses. That's not what Caron does. I'm here to take up for that. I don't benefit from a dollar from Caron. What I benefit is from when they send me a person back clean and sober. So I'm saying to all organizations, all homeless people, people that are stuck on Kensington and Allegheny, that we are here. Help us here. Pick up the phone. You can come reach the Caron Foundation right at One Day at a Time, 2432 North Broad Street, 2432 North Broad Street. We'll get you some help. We can do the referral for you. We make nothing, but be ready to step up and level up and come back and work, because we be waiting for you.
Wow.
Wow.
Mel Wells, future mayor of Philadelphia, right there, baby.
Don't start.
Don't do that. Don't do
that.
that. I don't want nobody to hear that.
Don't get us in trouble.
I vote for him.
But I vote, again, I vote for Mel and I vote for Caron. I think, again, as we look at what has happened, what's being accomplished, it's making a difference. It's saying to people that we care. It's saying that help not is on the way, help is here. And when I think about even the longstanding relationship that Independence has had with Caron, this didn't just happen.
Right.
And, and the foundation just got on board. We did SBIRT and some other things with Caron.
Did. Yep.
But the foundation, when I think about what we've been able to do, and I'm excited about it, is that it all started again with an idea, and our whole program called Stop supporting
Yep.
treatment and
Yep.
overdose prevention.
Yep.
That's how, not that I had met Mel already, but again, he was a part of the process. And we came up with the 20, and we had ambassadors that we went, look, we took them
Yeah.
down. We went straight to Washington. What is it? Stop goes to
That's good.
Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, and we took all of our ambassadors with the kiosks. And I think the key part of this is telling the story. All right, and nobody tells it like someone who has been in recovery, who is going through, and they say, look, it's not over till it's over.
That's right.
All right, and as long as, and even we've got a podcast that initially it was in 49 states, but now it's in all 50.
Come on.
So we're feeling good about that.
Awesome.
All right,
All
so again,
50.
people not being afraid and not having to feel the shame because they have been in recovery. We just recently
right.
had on one of the podcasts, Madeline Dean and her son. And
yeah.
they were, you know what I'm talking.
Oh, yeah,
Guess
yeah,
what?
good friend.
But I think it takes people that are even high places, wherever you are, to tell them it can. I had a brother that was in addiction. So I say to people, if there's anybody in here who has not been affected by it, raise your hand.
Come on. It's true.
All right.
Come on.
Really, and so that keeps it real. It's there, it's on the ground. So as we look forward and looking forward, where do we go from here, guys? Where do we go from here?
I know.
And I know that's not one of the
Doug, I'll
questions.
let you go, 'cause
But
I'm
gonna
taking
say,
Caron all
where
around
do
the
we
city.
go
Let's
from
go.
here?
No, I think that's-
Which, if I had a magic wand, which I don't, okay, which I don't, and I could wave it, and you had a dream of something that could become, what would that be?
Yeah, I love to talk about visions. I love to talk about landing on the
I know
moon mission.
There you go.
And we can talk about this vision because of one great thing we've learned about this. As I mentioned in the beginning, I've been at this for almost 4 decades. And there was a time when they thought that white people had to get sober with white people and black people had to get sober with black people and Hispanic with Hispanic. And we've proven that's not true.
Yeah.
We've proven that's not true. We've proven that the most important thing is the right type of treatment.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge, as we've talked about money and we've talked about access, but the biggest barrier, and it's largely because of those two, but for anyone of color or anybody who is in an inner city setting, they do not have access to the same kind of professional care. And it's really sad. This is the most treatable chronic illness in the world. If you get the right help. If you don't get the right help, it's a disaster. And then the rest of society says, well, see, it doesn't work anyways. I mean, there's so many statistics that just blow my mind. Like drug court, we know is extremely effective.
Yeah.
People of color are less than 50% likely that they'll get it as a white person gets it.
Right.
We talk about medication-assisted treatment. Guess what kind Hispanics and blacks get? They almost get methadone completely, whether it's appropriate or not. And typically it's inappropriate for them, which leads to them going to jail, and society says, see, they should be in jail anyways.
Right.
So what's the vision? The vision is to make the same kind of high quality access available to people regardless of your background, because our land on the mission goal is that no one has to suffer and die from this illness anymore. And we can do that with great care. I would love, as we think about Philadelphia, we're just getting us started. You've got a little foothold here, but we think of Kensington. I mean, so many people have come to myself, Brad Sorty, our new president and CEO, Dave Rotenberg, and said, how do we bring what we know how to do to Kensington? You know how to be in Kensington. We don't, but we know how to treat people.
That's right. That's right.
Regardless of where they live, and we've proven they can do it.
Are.
So that's our vision.
Okay.
Everybody has an opportunity to go at a Caron-like, high-quality treatment center.
Great. I mean, again,
Regardless of money, regardless of insurance, regardless of where you're from, because recovery is indeed a reality if you get good care.
Yeah, that's leveling the playing field. I mean, that's about equal access and people having the opportunity. So if it's there, here's how you can get there. And I think, again, Mel, you may be in North Philly, but you're everywhere.
I'm everywhere.
But you're everywhere.
Yeah.
Again, this story, I believe, will reverberate, not just through their community, but can go, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to say worldwide. How's that? Okay.
Come on.
That's my
what I'm talking
vision.
about. That's it.
That's my
Let's
vision.
do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah.
No, and why not? Okay. So again, I'm delighted. I'm excited. Again, collaborating for change. Look, what used to be a song called "Change Is Going to Come."
That's right.
Change is here.
Change is here.
1, 2, 3.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Come on,
you're
come
my
on.
change agents, okay, that are
Thank you.
standing out there in the public square saying, guess what? This can work. This will work. But it's working with people that are, I think you're competent, you're committed, you're compassionate, and you're caring, doggone it.
Definitely.
So again, I cannot thank you enough for just taking the time to talk about it, you know, but, and as we talk about it, others need to talk about
Come
it.
on.
They need to play it forward,
Right.
okay? Play it forward and go out
Can I
and
just
do
say a
that.
word about Independence Blue Cross? Because when it talks
Sure.
about changing,
Yes.
when I think of Dan Hilferty and I think of what
Yes.
you have done, there was a time, again, I've been at this a long time, when insurance companies were, if you will, adversarial
Yes.
with substance use treatment centers, and probably rightfully so. But regardless, it was
Exactly.
adversarial, or for whatever reason it happened. Well, one of the things that Dan Hilferty looked at was substance use impacts life regardless of what kind of illness you have, regardless of your ability to get care. And to my knowledge, Independence Blue Cross was like the first
The first.
insurer that said, you know what, we want people to get good care. We're not worried about the number of days. We want people to get
Sure.
good care, quality care. You're probably one of the first insurance foundations that
Yes.
said, we're going to have substance use disorder as a priority.
It is.
I mean, it takes guts,
Yeah,
it takes courage
definitely.
to make change. So my hat's off to
Well,
you
thank
and
you.
Dan Hilferty for doing
Well,
it.
you can't have this hat, but in any
Yeah,
event.
you always have you've got plenty of hats already.
No, Doug, we're supposed to just talk about more
No.
about ODAT, Karen.
Yeah.
I want to also thank Blue Cross because what happened was you took homeless individuals
Yeah.
and planted a seed of hope in my whole community in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You did not know how it was for us to be sitting on the steps and see one of my clients' faces pass by on a bus who's clean off of drugs now. People
Yeah.
had to put their drug down and say, wow, it is possible for me. If they did it, I know I can do it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Again, being a superstar, okay, but that's all part of our mission,
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you so
And that
much.
we're always going to be out there trying to make a difference. And I always say I'm a mad woman that's making a difference.
I like that.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're in the midst of it, okay? Again, want to thank you guys for everything. I don't know if there are any questions that are out there. No, we're good, okay? All right, then that means we can keep on talking or I can just wrap up. I can keep on talking. I have no problem
No
doing
problem
that,
with this
okay? No. And again, you mentioned when we talked about the supporting treatment and overdose prevention, another collaboration that we have is one that we're doing with the colleges now. So we started off with 2 and the colleges were real hesitant about doing it. Do you believe now? Today I had a grant committee meeting and we approved 5 more colleges.
Awesome.
And
Amen.
looking forward to 2022,
Wow.
we're going to
Good
do
stuff.
10 more.
Good
So
stuff.
again, I think it goes back to something I think Dave, you said, and Doug, you said, the important thing is that getting on the front end of it and don't be in denial. People say, oh no, and that's one of the situations that we have with the college camp. Oh, it doesn't happen on our campus. Like, come on now. Who's kidding who?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, one of the things we know is that, and this may be shocking to a lot of people, but college-age kids use more alcohol and drugs than any other population, even more so than the same age if you're not in college. And that's the part that shocks a lot of people. They
Yeah.
think, okay, college kids are not going to use as much as someone not in college. It's actually the opposite is true, because people in college usually are somehow on the dole from someone, usually mom and dad or
Right.
scholarship or whatever. But if
Sure.
you're not in college, that means you're probably having to work and having to be places
yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But that population using alcohol and drugs that often, again, many go through and turn out just fine. But if you happen to have the genetic predisposition,
Exactly. There
you,
it is.
you end up in a situation where you're going to ultimately need treatment.
Right.
And most colleges have only
Yeah.
in recent years begun to really have this as a much higher
Yeah,
focus.
St. Joe's has a great program
Yes, they do.
over there. They have a really
And
good program.
we're working with them as well.
Well, I figured you were.
Yeah,
Okay.
great program.
Yeah, but again, it's getting on the front end of
Yep.
it and knowing that, I go back to the comment, there's no shame in it. And I think what people often, when they think of addiction, they often think of hardcore drugs and things like that. Alcohol, people don't think that alcohol, and I see you smiling at me, Doug, okay? So I know you got a comment on
the
that.
statistic
Okay.
that we talked last year about the number of individuals who died from substance use disorder. You know, it reached an all-time high. It's pushing 80,000. Yeah. Well, here's the news alert. Over 90,000 people died of alcohol abuse last year. Right. Put them together, it's 160,000 individuals, the most preventable cause of death in the United States. Those 160,000 people do not have to die.
Wow.
But you're right, we actually talk more about substance use, and typically because it's younger people, it's sudden, it's frightening. You know, people who die of alcoholism tends to take decades, and families have oftentimes written them off, which is sad, which is why we have an older adult program at Caron today.
Which is
we're seeing 79-year-olds, 85-year-olds getting sober.
Wow.
Being a great grandma and grandpa again.
That's great.
Being able to take their kids to preschool. I mean, isn't that beautiful?
That's wonderful.
I think that if I may interject here,
absolutely, Dave.
one of the granddaddy of all drugs, though, is clearly heroin and opiates and fentanyl. And the reason we should highlight this is 39% higher rates of overdose and death from overdose in the Black community.
Yes.
Since 2019. This is real. This is real in the white community, Hispanic community, every community around the world. The opiate epidemic. So Doug's right about the alcohol. The number of people is greater, but the people being taken out at earlier ages, at earlier stages of life, devastating. Yeah. So much more devastating to a family system to lose 22-year-old brother.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong, you know, that it's still brutal to lose 70-year-old dad or mom or grandpa, but it's a very different dynamic. And so the devastation to the Black community within the opiate crisis is very real.
Sure.
And that's even more reason why I try to highlight, which I did, and you reiterated, Doc, early intervention. Early intervention in the Black community.
I would even say that the fentanyl, you're talking about the opiate crisis right now, and I'm saying it to the rappers, to the community out there. You have a lot of young people that's starting to think addiction is cool.
Right.
Addiction is starting to become a swag. They have fentanyl and marijuana and Percocets.
Yep.
I have some of my own closest friends, I call my young guys, who are 30 years old. They went to sleep, they took a pill, they never woke up again. So what I'm saying is that help is really here. And I don't want nobody to feel ashamed to say, I need help, because everybody needs help in some type of way. And I would say even addiction crosses all type of barriers, lifestyle, weight, fitness, all type of things. So all of us deal with some type of addiction, but all of us can deal with also helping each other out with this addiction, like we're doing here right now today.
Yeah, and I think for people to know that they have options. Okay, or choices, okay? It's about choice, but those choices have to be placed before them, and it goes back to where we started, where there has to be access, because if there's no access, I don't have a choice, okay? And this is something that I will continue to do till something works out, okay?
And you know, you could be an organization that have access, but if you don't have compassion, love, and care with that access for the individual, you're giving a person an access that can actually be not the best thing that they need, but if you do it with love, for me, that's the main important piece, love and passion. Then give them the access so you don't give up on an individual. Person may not get it the first time. It may take some people once or twice or 10 times, but never give up, and that's our partnership. Never give up.
Okay.
But that's it. And again, you may not always get it right the first time. I mean, I've seen that, but still, you know, people can slip right back into it very easily, but make it, and that's what I love about your program. It's not a 2-week program.
No, I was just going to say, Doc,
go ahead,
that his philosophy, Mel's philosophy, one day at a time's philosophy, Caron's philosophy, any treatment center's philosophy worth its salt, long-term care. What are you doing it one day at a time? You're living with 10 brothers, 10 sisters, 6, 9, 12 months, getting back on your feet, taking medicine appropriately, getting proper sleep, nutrition, going back to work, being part of a recovery community. Caron, just like we share a family togetherness philosophy, long-term care is the #1 way that you're going to stay sober. And oh, by the way, if you reach 1 year sober, which is your goal, our goal, which is why sober living is so important, you have 5 times greater chance of staying sober long-term. People need to recognize that. I'm not trying to put you in, Caron, to get you 90 years sober. I want you to get 1 year sober, because if you get 1, you're going to get 5, 7,
you start to
and 10.
build.
And parallel philosophies, passion, commitment, dedication, skill, and vision meet resources and dedication. And that's the winning formula.
Yeah.
That's the synergy and the secret sauce. We need to expand. We need to do more. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think, again, how do you do this in bite-sized pieces? Okay, that 1 year, let me get to that one day, but then the next day, and then build on the next day and the next day.
And every patient in treatment, so many are they're so quick to want to leave treatment. I'm done. 28 days, I'm out.
Come on, tell us.
I'm out, I'm done, I'm good. It's not the case. And it's maybe a tough message, but it's one that you're so good at, Mel, that Caron is so good at.
Yeah.
And so a larger percentage of our shared patients go to long-term care, and long after they're at Caron, they're in a sober living environment that's safe, nurturing, and allows them to grow into a sober identity, which is so critical to this dialogue.
And again, I've been in the presence of some of your folks that have gotten past the 1 year. And again, they're passionate and just grateful and thankful. And I say this, once a part of the Caron family, once a part of the ODAT family, you're always family.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're always family.
I just want to highlight that we have
go ahead.
people that have been through the process, who run, these same individuals we're talking about, run 1 day at a time. We've been in the business going on 40 years. I have alumni who run the organization that have 25, 30 years clean. The proof is in the pudding. You just got to say, I need help, and be a part of a family. Like we say, 1 day at a time. But I tell people, listen, when you join my family, there's no getting out my family. Ready to go back to the streets? We have 27 services. They go find you, bring you back to services. We have services for the kids. We have services for the whole community, because this is a family thing that is going on up here.
Right.
And I
go
think,
ahead, Doug.
I was going to say, I think that, kind of proof is in the pudding, and it is such a great role model when you've had the products of your service become the leaders of your organization. And at Caron, we're a nonprofit organization. We're run by a board of volunteers. 2/3 of our volunteers slept in those beds, ate that food.
Exactly.
And now they're giving it back.
Exactly.
And on the same token, and I don't mean to, kind of blow Dave's anonymity from his past, but Chief Clinical Officer at Caron. He was a patient at Caron at the age of 24.
Caron alum, class of 1991. What could be sweeter than sitting up here as a Caron alum representing Caron at the highest level? Same with 1 day at a time and your residents. There is nothing better than to walk back in there and take the next person shoulder to shoulder.
And just like Mel's organization, I think, if you're a patient going through that, you say like, wow, these people slept here, they ate this food, they walked on these paths. Look at the life I can have.
You know what? You guys are my hero.
Shoulder to shoulder.
Hey, you're my heroes. You really are. And
you are a hero.
Well, okay. But we're all each other's heroes. But again, it's taking that step forward and going back to Caron and putting forward the $500,000 scholarship. Doug and I talking and say, hey, we'll put $100,000 to it in an effort to do it. But guess what? We're gonna make this work. We're gonna make cake. Okay, and then guess what? Now we're gonna make it. It's gonna rise. Okay, and so again, I'm just, like I said, just delighted to have all 3 of you here today to talk about it and to be so passionate about it. And you know what? The best is yet to come, guys. This is only the beginning, and I'm just believing that.
And I want to just say, again, we appreciate the financial support that IBC Foundation has always given. And for some companies, writing the check might be the easy part. Maybe for some, it's the hard part. But the thing I really have to give you credit for, Lorina, is the fact that you also gave us contacts, connections, expertise, passion, strategy. It would not be nearly as good if you just said, hey, we're going to write you a check for $100,000. Good luck.
But you know, my motto is my staff. I always say, we are more than a check. And
Yeah.
as I say, I don't want to date you. I want a marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, there you
Beautiful.
go. I want a
Beautiful.
marriage. Okay.
Beautiful.
So we want to work
She's
together.
serious.
Yeah, I say that all the
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know, it's easy to write the check,
Yeah.
and then people write
She's
it
there
and
with
walk
you.
away.
Every step of the way,
Look,
she's
I've been
there.
on the street corner with
Yeah,
Mel. We
yeah,
just
she-
dedicated a block for
Yeah,
his mom and his
yeah, yeah.
Oh my
dad.
God, cool.
And, no, we've celebrated together. So again, this is a celebration of what can happen when people come together and collaborate for change. When people take their agendas and put them over here
Amen.
and say, hey,
Yeah.
not I, but we. This is what we can do together.
And in that spirit of we, I would say that anybody who's listening, if they want to figure out how to replicate this, contact Mel, contact me, contact Lorina, Dave. We would be
Yeah.
happy to show you
Yes,
what works.
please.
You don't
Please.
have to make the same mistakes we made. We'll let you make your own, but we can show you some things that work. We can show you some
Yeah.
things that you should probably try to avoid.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of being nonprofits is collaboration.
Okay, but like I said, it's been a great discussion. It's been great conversing with you. And you know, there's much to do in addressing the many challenges causing health disparities. And none of us can address them alone. But through, again, collaboration, through connection, we can continue to increase access to culturally competent care in underserved communities and work together to achieve greater health equity. Again, I want to thank all of you. You know, I love all of you. And thanks again. And let us keep the conversation going and
Absolutely.
take action.
You got it.
Have a great night, guys. And
Absolutely.
thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. It has been great.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
This was terrific.
Good stuff.
Terrific job.
We gotta talk about kids.